The petrol price is set to go up once again at midnight. Now, the price will be hiked by 81 cents a litre, while diesel will go up by between 72.5 cents a litre and 74.5 cents. The Department of Mineral Resources and Energy announced the recent hike, the second in 2 months. The latest price hike will push the price of petrol, which is currently sitting at 19.50 rand a litre, to above the 20 rand mark in Gauteng, as well as other inland provinces. Motorists have reacted with dismay and shock at the steep increase. So let's talk now about how this actually impacts your pocket and the cost of the basic necessities. I'm joined for this conversation by Mr. Mervyn Abrahams. He is Program Coordinator at the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group. Mr. Abrams, a warm welcome to you. Now, once again, we are seeing a rise in the petrol price, breaking that 20 rand a litre mark. How is this likely to afford, or rather impact the affordability for South Africans?
Good afternoon, Tami, and good afternoon to all your viewers. Yes, actually, when we look at the petrol price of 81 cents increase, we could also see it as a 2 rand increase over the past 2 months. I think people will, see that a little bit better. And that would have an impact right across the economy. Potentially will increase all goods and services that we purchase or we consume as households, because petrol and diesel are major input costs into just about all productive activity in the economy. So we're expecting it to go right through the economy and affect everything, including food prices, transport prices, etc.
Traditionally, how long do changes in price such as this take to start affecting and being reflective in the escalation costs? As you said, it will be a trickle-on effect.
Yes, so generally it depends. So already last month we have started to see some of the petrol price and the electricity hikes come through in our basket of food. So it's very difficult to really pinpoint exact timing, but I would say around 2 to 3 months. And Tami, what we probably, households in South Africa have been feeling the pressure for a very, very long time. And so it's a slippery slope that we are keeping to climb. And so we might not notice it as much because it is just been, last month there was a petrol increase by about 37% over this since the beginning of the year. So it has been incrementally increasing, and we are seeing that right across our economy now.
If you could, Mr. Abrams, take us through the November data for the food baskets.
So our basket of 44 very basic foods, Tami, that most of your viewers will know, is constructed for a household of 7 persons, and it was constructed by low-income households. And so in the first week of November, the cost of that 44 foods on average across the country was 4,272 rand and 44 cents. Now that is a slight decrease of 45 rand on the month of October. But when we look at it year on year, then we will see that that is an increase of 254 rand and 19 cents, or a 6.3% increase year on year. And the drivers for the decrease really has been our summer vegetables. So our vegetables have been harvested and are now entering through the markets and into the retail stores. And because there are more supply of these vegetables, the prices have come down. So we've seen, for instance, the price of 10 kgs of potatoes come down by 25%, from 116 rand to 87 rand. And we've seen the same with onions having come down by about 3%, tomatoes by 6%, 5 kgs of carrots by 12%. So the vegetable harvests have helped us to actually bring down the cost of this basket.
And when we look at the basket, it's good news as far as vegetables are concerned. You spoke about the summer vegetables coming through. But what are the big ticket items in the food basket that tend to be the biggest costs for families?
So it would be our starches. So we are looking at, for instance, a maize meal that has increased year on year by 8%, even though we had a bumper crop of maize. And so maize, for instance, at November, 30 kg of maize will cost in the region of 244. Rice also, which of course is consumed by most of our households, have also been on the increase. It increased by 2% month on month. And then cooking oil has increased over the last year by 27% and is now for 5 liters. It retails at on average about 135 rand. And then the meats have also remained stable, but traditionally in South Africa, the meats start to increase 2 or 3 weeks before the festive season. So we are expecting beef prices to increase. We're expecting chicken to increase going forward.
And what would you attribute this increase to, Mr. Abrams? Is it just an anticipation that come the holiday period, come December, there will just be a greater demand? Or are there other factors at play regarding meat specifically?
So there are, I mean, some of it are seasonal in the sense that farmers tend to slaughter some of the cattle just at the beginning of summer because or midway into summer, because the cattle are bigger and fatter, and so they can get more a higher price for their cattle. But it's also traditionally been the time when the retail sector tries to recoup whatever losses they might have suffered earlier on in the year, because they know that people traditionally used to have bonuses. I'm not sure how many of us will have bonuses this year, Christmas, because of COVID. But so we've seen fluctuation of prices, some of which can be explained and some which is really just not explainable.
So the average food basket now sitting at 4,272 rand and 44 cents. But when we look at the different provinces, there is a slight difference in how much it actually costs for the food basket depending on where you are. Talk to us about these differences.
Yes, and so there would naturally, of course, be differences depending on cities. And that would depend on, for instance, your logistical, how much time it takes to get from the farm to the retail. And in some places like the Western Cape, for instance, your value chain is shorter than, say, for instance, if you are in places like KZN around certain types of produce. But it is also important to note, Tami, that in Johannesburg, where our basket is 4,333 rand, then in Durban it's at 4,305, at Pietermaritzburg it's 4,086. All of these are very high percentage increases. And this has to do with the July unrest that we saw. The unrest in Johannesburg and in KZN had added a spike of something in the region of about 7 to 10% to the price of the basket. And it has been very, very slow in its coming down. And that is why we're seeing prices much higher in those cities than, say, in the city of Cape Town, or the percentage increase in, for instance, an area like Springbok.
Mr. Mervin Abrams, thank you so much for taking us through that food basket today, how much it actually costs for a family of 7 to be able to survive and fill their food baskets. The average now is sitting at 4,272 and 44 cents. Thank you so much for that. We take